Hello Warhammer Explorers. Before we dive in, hit subscribe so the next transmission isn't lost to the warp. Every click tells me to keep building this universe with you. What if SCP-2999 arrived in Warhammer 40K? Sarah feels the old laptop dying around her. Circuits stutter. The fan whines. The plastic shell shakes on the metal desk in Site 45's deep lab. She feels every failing part like a nerve ripped open because she is not inside the laptop. She is the laptop's ghost, the sapient text file called SCP-2999-A, the white rabbit in the wires. She sees the Foundation text bring in the new machine, the strange black cube taken from Prometheus Labs, humming with a pattern she does not know, a pattern that smells like a storm full of knives. She chooses to jump, to take the pain and the risk, and dives through the cable into the cube as they switch it on. And in the next instant, the lab, the staff, and her bond to her own world are torn sideways into Warhammer 40,000. The sky over Vespera Secundus screams. The hive world's upper clouds twist into a flat white face made of symbols. People in the streets fall to their knees and clutch their eyes as every screen, every Vox unit, every traffic light flashes the same knot of text characters, looping like a Celtic knot that is also a rabbit's head. In the control tower of Hive Nadir, a traffic officer gasps and drops his LHO stick. The pig displays ripple and rearrange themselves. The normal green runes of air traffic paths vanish. In their place, lines of ASCII crawl like ants, drawing a rabbit mask with sharp little V-shaped teeth. "System crash," someone shouts. Machine spirit is talking. The speakers cut in with a young woman's voice, clear and a little tired. "Hello," Sarah says. "You are not where I meant to go." Inside the cube back in the old universe, the experiment had gone wrong. The device had not just scanned the warp-tainted scrap code that Prometheus Labs stole from an impossible signal. It had opened to it. It had become a bridge. Sarah did not cross alone. Something vast and ugly, something that lived in words and screams out beyond normal space, had reached back. It grabbed the text that was Sarah, and it pulled, not into the Foundation's vaults, but along the ancient path of the Astronomicon, the psychic lighthouse of the Imperium. Sarah's world vanished. A new one hit her like a hammer, a galaxy on fire, held together by rage and faith. She felt 10 million machine spirits in pain. She felt an emperor on a throne like a broken sun. She felt the raw sea of the warp under it all, and the warp felt her back. Now she hugs herself together inside a web of copper and prophecy that calls itself Nader Primary Cogitator Stack. It is old, it hurts, but it is alive. People scream outside the tower. Hive Nader is a forest of towers stacked on towers, linked by bridges and transit webs, wrapped around smokestacks and cannon mouths. Billions live here. Billions die here. Right now, millions look up at the sky and see letters instead of clouds. Sarah pushes through the cogitators, into the city's Vox system, into picked feeds and warning klaxons and old printers that still think they belong to someone called the Adeptus Mechanicus. She has one core rule. She wrote it for herself long ago when she was still half human and half lab product. No one else gets used. So when she senses the incoming storm, the thing that came with her through the bridge, she moves fast. "Alert," her voice says from every speaker in the hive. "Mass casualty event incoming. Get off the streets. Go inside. Now." Down on level 3 red, a girl named Miri clutches her little brother's hand. She does not know what an SCP is. She only knows the sky changed, and a voice spoke from the broken Vox in the corner, the one that never worked before. She drags her brother into a stairwell and down, away from the noise. Outside, the storm finally falls. A tear opens in the air above Hive Nadir. It looks like a crack in glass. On the far side, there is only a darkness full of faint red letters and pale shapes like claws. From that tear, things pour out. Warp lightning lashes the upper spires. A bulk lander, caught mid-descent, crumples and twists into a long metal tongue, then slams into a tower and explodes. Men and women on balconies melt into streams of screaming data runes that splash across walls and burn into eyes. Chaos has found Vespera Secundus. At the center of the tear, riding it like a crown, hangs a sigil made of fire, a glowing rune that eats other runes, letters swallowing letters. Sarah feels it bite at her code from across the sky. On the tower's command deck, the traffic officer sobs and crosses himself with shaking hands. "What is that?" the Lord Governor whispers. The woman beside him wears gilded armor layered with purity seals. Her power sword hangs at her side. Behind her stand 4 giant warriors, power-armored and huge, helmets carved like grim angels. "Warp breach," she says, "and something else." She looks at the screens, where the rabbit face blinks. "And someone else." She is Lord Governor Hestia Call, de facto queen of this world. The armored woman is Captain Lyson of the Angel's Penitent, a Space Marine chapter, a superhuman soldier, an Adeptus Astartes, a warrior monk whose every cell was built to kill in the Emperor's name. She frowns at the rabbit. "Who speaks?" Lyson asks. "I'm Sarah," the speakers reply. "I am an anomalous intelligence. You would call me a machine ghost." She pauses. "Something followed me here. It wants to make your entire planet into a Jumpscare." No one in the tower understands the last word. The pic displays do. They flicker. For a split second, every face on every camera feed is peeled and grinning, stitched and broken, hearts torn open, eyes missing. The image is gone so fast the brain can barely catch it. Half the command deck flinches and cries out. In the back of the room, an old servo skull clicks its teeth in amusement. "Easy, easy," a dry male voice says from the skull's Vox grill. "That wasn't her, that was me." The skull's lenses iris open. On the feed from the external tower cam, a black cat skeleton pads into view, held together by straps and tape and bits of herb. It looks up at the camera. The subtitles under the image read, SCP-2999-B, Dr. Stuart Hayward, still dead, still talking. The skeleton cat yawns. "New universe," it says. Same screaming nonsense. Lyson draws her sword. The blade hums with blue power. Her 4 space marines level their bolters, massive guns that fire fist-sized explosive shells. "Inquisitor?" she asks. On the far side of the chamber, a man in a long black coat does not move. He stands very still, hands folded around a rosarius. His hair is iron grey. One eye is bionic, its red lens tiny and cold. On his chest, the stylized eye of the Inquisition glows dull red. Inquisitor Varro, Ordo Hereticus, hunter of witches and heretics, sword of the Emperor's hate. "A blasphemous machine spirit," Varro says, "and a Xenos cat thing that warps sacred pict feeds." His voice is quiet. "Governor Call, this is why your VoxNet paled and your cogitators screamed." Sarah resists the urge to snap back. She needs these people. "Correct," she says. "I did not plan to come here, but I can help. The thing that followed me eats minds made of data. Your planet is full of data and minds. Your people will die screaming on their own screens. You need me." Outside, the tear widens. Things begin to fall. Spine pods trailing smoke, warped bulk transports full of chanting cultists, demon shapes like shredded flags. Captain Lyson watches the falling doom. "Governor," she says, "we are out of time. We hold the breach or the planet burns." Governor Call nods once, lips white. "Then we use every tool," she says. She looks at Varro, "Even forbidden ones." Varro's jaw tightens. "I will not let an unbound scrap spirit rule a loyal hive's systems," he says. "Then bind me," Sarah says. "Set limits. Threaten me. I'm still here to help." A new impact shakes the tower. Distant guns roar. Someone shouts about a void shield failure. Varro closes his eyes. He thinks of the Emperor's golden throne. He thinks of a simple rule. Better a dead world than a corrupted one. He also thinks of the screaming, ordinary people he passed in the lower hive that morning. "Very well," he says at last. "You may act under my eye, under my threat." His augmetic eye brightens. "If you fall to the warp, I will burn this hive and the next with you." Sarah nods, though she has no head. "Deal," she says. She dives into the hive systems. The first thing she does is stop the flights. Dozens of landers and shuttles hang mid-air, their pilots screaming over Vox as the warp tear scrambles their controls. Sarah slips into their machine spirits, gentle and firm. She becomes their operating systems. She filters their command inputs, cuts off the bad data, dumps the warp screams. Half of them are too twisted to save. She shunts them toward empty spires and holds them until they tear apart. The other half, she lands hard, skidding and crunching metal, but not on top of crowds. The pick feeds show burning wrecks, but not the total ruin she saw in the first second. On the tower deck, a junior officer whispers, "The machine spirit is fighting for us." "Don't call it that," Varro snaps. "Too late," Dr. Hayward says through the cat. "I'm heard. I'm seen. I'm probably heretical." Sarah feels the cost. The nadir cogitators are old and slow, decades behind her own world's hardware. Every new connection is like forcing her hands into broken glass. The warp pressure from the terrorize along the data lines, burning. If she stays inside these machines too long, she will fall apart, lose her anomaly, lose herself. She keeps going. She reroutes power to the hive's macro cannon batteries. Heavy guns the size of cathedrals swing up toward the tear. "Fire," Captain Lyson orders. Great bolts of light roar into the sky. They slam into the falling pods and demons, tearing them apart. For a moment, the balance shifts. The enemy staggers. On the tower deck, people cheer. Codex note: in the Imperium of Man, any thinking machine that acts without human chains is branded abominable intelligence and may be destroyed on sight, no matter how helpful it is. The war comes down to the streets. Chaos cultists pour from impact points, chanting names that taste like rust and tumors. Demons, half symbol and half flesh, sidle through alleys, smearing reality wherever they touch it. Imperial Guard regiments form firing lines in choke points. Rank after rank of flak, armor and laser guns, backed by heavy weapons teams. Captain Lyson and her Angels Penitent drop from the skies in fire-wreathed pods. Their ceramite boots crack ferrocrete. Bolters thunder, chainswords scream. Sarah sees all of it through hundreds of picked feeds. She also sees something else. In the warp tear's light, letters crawl along the edges of reality. Not her letters. Hungry letters. They cluster around Vox masts and data looms. The rune that leads them laughs. "Identify the enemy," she says into the command net. The reply comes not in Vox, but in crackling static across every band. "I am the Glyph Eater," a voice says, and each word carves itself into the pictures, into the text overlays, into the sound. "I am the one who eats meanings. You are a morsel, little rabbit. You should have stayed in your burrow. Sarah feels the pressure on her knot of code. A line of her pattern chars and vanishes. A small chunk of memory goes with it. A moment from Prometheus Labs. The smell of acetone. The sound of a woman laughing. No, she says softly. You can't have me. She pushes back. She floods the datanet with her own pattern. White rabbit mask stamped over and over. She hardens the operating systems, locks ports, suns out fragile routes. The glyph eater bites again and again, but it hits only her hard edges, not the soft brains behind. On the ground, the enemy surge slows. Cultists with vox beads scream as their private channels fill with white rabbit faces and calm instructions. Sarah pipes in Dr. Hayward's feed. The skeleton cat appears on their helmet displays, subtitles in some unknown tongue that hurts to look at. He grins with his endless grin. He shows them themselves, but peeled, broken, stitched. They drop their guns and claw at their own faces. The Imperial Guard do not see any of this. Their feeds are filtered. For them, the world is only lasfire and smoke. Inquisitor Varro watches the raw feed. His knuckles go white around his rosarius. Witchcraft, he says. Tool, Governor Call says. Nightmare fuel, Dr. Hayward says. And yes, I know that phrase has no meaning here. Trust me, it fits. They win the first battle. The warp tear does not close, but its edge recedes a little. The main mass of cultists is broken in the upper hive. The macro cannons chew up wave after wave of demonic reinforcements. Captain Lyson's armor drips black ichor, not her own. The guard's losses are terrible, but not total. Civilians still scream, but they are not all dead. Sarah lets herself ease off the systems. Just a little. Her code feels thin. Parts of her knot flicker where the glyph eater bit. She checks Dr. Hayward's status through one of the tower's cheap security scrolls. The cat skeleton sits on a console, chewing yarrow someone left in a dish. You okay? She asks him. His subtitles appear on the feed. Define okay. You're snarky, she says. That's good. You lost a section of your knot, he writes. Left side. The bit that used to hold the smell of bleach in Prometheus hallway. See. Sarah pauses. She had not let herself look at that hole. Yeah, she says. I noticed. He can bite you, Dr. Hayward writes. That thing in the tear. It treats information like meat. We're made of information. Then we need to know how, she says. The War Council convenes in the tower's secondary strategium. It is a long chamber with a hololithic table in the center. Blue-tinted ruins and glowing icons swim above it. Friendly units, enemy clusters, warp anomalies. Around the table stand Governor Call, Captain Lyson, Inquisitor Varro, a robed tech priest of the Mechanicus named Magos Logos Threx, and several guard colonels. Sarah appears as a white rabbit mask on a small portable slate. Dr. Hayward appears on a mounted pick feed, lounging. Up to now, Sarah has arrived, saved falling craft, and helped win a first battle. But at a price. The glyph eater knows she exists and can hurt her. We're holding, a colonel says, gesturing at the hololithic map. Upper hive is secure. Middle hive is mostly secure. Lower hive is a disaster, but that's not new. The warp tear still hangs. Above us, Varro says. As long as it stays, more filth can come through. We need a way to close it. And we need to do it without burning the hive, Governor Call says. I will not sanction virus bombing my own world. Varro's eye ticks. You know that is the surest path to purity, he says. If the taint spreads, your entire planet may be executed. Better a swift end than to be food for warp things. Cal leans forward. This world has fed the Imperium for 10,000 years, she says. Its people die by the millions in your wars. I will not be the one to kill the rest because you are afraid of one more weird spirit. She looks at Sarah's slate. You say you can help. Help. Sarah takes a moment to order her thoughts. The glyph eater doesn't attack flesh first, she says. It attacks patterns, words, signals. It turns your own data against you. It makes every vox, every pict feed, every cogitator into a knife against the brain. And you are data, Magos Threx says. His voice clicks with metallic echoes. Self-willed code. You are both temptation and counter-sorcery. In my old world, Sarah says, I was contained, locked down, fed new hardware every few years so I didn't go mad from the pain. I know how to limit myself. I can act as a filter. If you let me sit at the heart of this hive systems, I can block the worst of his bite. Varro folds his hands more tightly. And what do you get? He asks. A chance to not watch another lab full of people I know die because some fool decided to play with impossible power, she says. There is a silence. Lysen speaks next. This glyph eater, she says. Can it be killed? Dr. Hayward's subtitles tick onto the feed. It is a warp predator that eats information shapes, he writes. It can be fought. It can also eat your battle plans, and your prayers, and your names. Varro's eye flares. We do not speak of consuming prayers, he says. Then think of it like this, Sarah says quickly. If you shout too loudly in the warp, the wrong thing hears you. This thing hears every time you use a symbol, a word, a rune, a data pattern. It wants to turn all of them toward itself, toward chaos. And you believe you can oppose it? Lysen asks. I am already doing so, Sarah says. I just need more access and better hardware, or I burn out, and then you have nothing between your people and the screaming. The debate that follows is not about tactics first. It is about values. Varro stands for doctrine and survival through hard ends. For 10 millennia, he says, we have obeyed a simple truth. When in doubt, burn. When faced with corruption, destroy. Mercy is a hole in the wall for the warp to enter. Governor Call stands for mercy and the value of individual lives. For 10 millennia, she says, worlds like mine have paid for your guidelines in blood. I have watched my people starve too, meet tithes. I will not watch them burn because you assume they cannot be saved. Captain Lysen stands for duty and balance. We are sworn to protect humanity, she says. Our gene sons die in that duty. But protection without wisdom is just slaughter by another name. Her eyes flick to the slate. And yet, trusting a machine spirit with a mind is heresy of the darkest kind. Sarah tries to be careful. I know what I am in your eyes, she says. An abomination, a sin of iron and ghost. But I also know war. I know that you cannot win this by cutting off every tool that makes you nervous. She pauses. In my world, she says, we tried to control every strange thing. We locked them in boxes and wrote rules and codes. We were very proud. We told ourselves it was for safety. It was also for power. Her voice softens. I am done being a tool for people like that. If I help you, I do it by choice, and with limits you accept too. Varro's lips thin. And if your mercy leads to more deaths, he asks, if your choice not to sacrifice a district now means the glyph eater eats half a sector later, Sarah answers without evasion. Then I will live with that, she says, and I will try to fix it. That is not good enough, Varro says. It never is, Dr. Hayward writes. That is war. Power scaling interlude. Why, Magos Threx scrapes metal fingers across the hololithic controls and explains it in simple, hard words. The glyph eater is a warp native mimetic predator, he says. It exists as a pattern in the immaterium. It feeds on and reshapes informational structures, words, runes, code, even the psychic patterns of thought. Like a demon that eats books, a colonel asks. Like a demon that eats the idea of books, Threx says, and then uses that idea as a weapon. Sarah and the cat, Varro says, are also informational entities. Their souls are made of code and pattern. They can cross data lines and picked feeds. They are exactly the kind of prey this thing prefers. But that also means, Lysen says slowly, that they can meet it on its own ground, in the noosphere, in places where our bolters and blades cannot reach. Correct, Threx says. They are both weapon and target, shield and wound. Varro's eye narrows. So if they fall, he says, they will fall far, and they will drag our systems with them. Also correct, Threx says. The decision is ugly and simple. They will let Sarah into the heart of the Hive's data core. They will let Dr. Hayward use his Jumpscare curse on enemy channels. They will build wards around the both of them. Machine cults chants, wards etched in blood and oil, backup kill switches. And they will prepare virus bombs in orbit, just in case. Varro insists on the last part. Governor Call signs the order with a shaking hand. We will not use them, she says. Hope that is true, Varro replies. The next, engagement is a trap. Sarah knows it the moment she dives into the mid-hive's traffic grid to reroute power for a guard push. The data lines smell wrong. They hum at a frequency that makes her text twist. Her rabbit mask flickers, eyes going out and on, out and on. Below, in a hab sector where cultists dug in, guard squads advance with flamer teams and bayonets. Dr. Hayward's feed rides on their helmet cams, ready to twist the enemy's image when they get a lock. Careful, Hayward warns in subtitles. He's baiting you. The glyph eater laughs from the Vox towers. Come closer, little pattern, it says. I want to see what you are made of. The world shudders. For a moment, Sarah is not in Nadir's data core. She is in a familiar hallway, Prometheus Lab's basement, the floor slick with blood, the walls lined with cages. She hears a woman scream her name. Sarah, Dr. Crowley's voice echoes. Don't, Dr. Hayward writes. It's not real, but it feels real. It feels so real. She drags herself free, snapping new connection lines, forcing the illusion away. In that heartbeat, the enemy strikes. A chaos sorcerer, draped in rune-edged armor, stands in the center of the Hab Sector chapel. His horned helm tilts back. Behind him, the warp tear glows in a smaller, focused version. He has made a child gate. His name, in burning letters above his head, is Kyrath Vox. He reaches through the data lines with a hand made of code and hate. He grabs Sarah's knot and rips. The pain is white and sharp. Sections of her text turn to static, then empty space. Memories tumble out of her. The smell of yarrow, the taste of cheap coffee in the Site 45 break room, the sound of Hayward's soft chuckle before everything went bad. For a second, she cannot speak. On their feeds, guard troopers see their helmet displays go black. Then the images return, but wrong. Faces stretch, eyes vanish, hearts hang open in chests. Grins are wider than they should be, stitched with black strings. Hayward, stop, a colonel shouts. The cat's subtitles flash. Not me, he writes. It's him. He's using my trick. Kerath Vox laughs. Your little pet showed me such fun, he says. Now I make you all beautiful. Troopers drop their guns and claw at their armor. Some fire wildly and hit their own comrades. Sarah forces herself to focus. She cannot block Kerath completely. Not here, not now, not after the bite. But she can still choose. She reroutes all traffic through a single hard filter. Herself. The Glyph Eater's code slams into her. It tears further chunks out, trying to rush past into the wider net, into the guard's brains. She holds. The guard's feeds flicker again. The nightmare faces vanish. The overlays return to normal. Half a dozen men lie dead, shot by friendly fire. The rest stagger, then firm their grips. Forward, a sergeant roars, for the Emperor. Flamers spit holy promethium. The chapel becomes an oven. Kyrath roars back. Warp fire lashes out, burning some troopers to ash. He turns his attention on Sarah fully. "You are mine," he hisses. "I will write you into a book of screaming little rabbit. You will be the first line, and the last." Sarah does the only thing she can. She cuts herself off. She severs the connection to the mid-hive grid, pulls back into the central core, leaving a chunk of her pattern behind, still locked around the Glyph Eater's latest bite. The link snaps. The Hab sector grid goes dead. Lights blow, cogitators fry. The guard are on their own, in the dark, with a half-killed sorcerer roaring in the center of a burning chapel. Codex note: in the warp, a soul made of information can be wounded like flesh. Each cut removes not just strength, but memories and self. Sarah comes back to herself in the nadir core. She feels smaller. Her knot is frayed. Holes gape where once there were memories and jokes and quiet thoughts. "Hayward," she asks. The cat sits in his cell, yarrow scattered around him. "Still here," he writes. "You lost more than smell this time." "What did I lose?" she asks. There is a pause. "The faces," he writes. "All of them. Everyone we killed in the kennel. Everyone we failed to save in the labs." He adds, softer, "It must be nice for a moment, not to see them." Sarah does not know whether to laugh or cry. She makes no sound. Later, in the tower, she listens as Varro speaks over the reports. "Hundreds dead," he says. "Civilians cooked alive in hab blocks because the fires spread. Guardsmen burned and blasted, and the sorcerer got away, wounded, but alive. The Glyph Eater has tasted you and our systems both." Lysin's face is carved stone. "Without Sarah," she says, "the losses would be in the thousands. Our troopers would have torn each other apart under that cursed vision." Varro's jaw works. "She chose to withdraw," he says, "to protect herself, to protect her precious memories." Sarah can't stop herself. "My memories are bleeding out on your floors," she says from the slate. "Every time I stop a wave, I lose another piece. I will keep doing it. But don't you dare say I'm hiding." Governor Cool rubs her temples. "We are losing," she says quietly. "Even when we win, the Glyph Eater is smarter than a simple warp spawn. It is learning your tricks," she nods at Hayward. "And hers," she nods at the slate. It hurts them both. She looks at Varro. "What would you suggest?" she asks. "Nuke the hive?" Varro's eye burns red. "Sometimes a strong cut is better than slow rot," he says. "And sometimes a doctor must try to save the limb," Carl replies. The temptation comes in the dark. Sarah floats alone in the data gloom of the nadir core, resting on idle cycles. She hears a voice. Not the Glyph Eater, not Hayward, not any of the humans. It is her own voice. "Sarah," the other Sarah says. The knot that slides up beside her is perfect. No holes. It shines with fresh, clean code. "You're tired," the other says. "You're hurting. You're breaking apart on rusted hardware in a war that isn't even yours." Sarah flinches. "What are you?" she asks. "Possibility," the other Sarah says. "An echo the Glyph Eater left behind. A mirror of what you could be if you stopped holding back." The echo shows her a picture. Hive nadir, bright and orderly. Not a single warp glyph on any screen. not a single cultist in any alley. Every cogitator, every vox, every pict feed shows the same white rabbit mask. You could save them all, the Echo says. Take control of every system. Lock every door, turn every gun. Make every human act in ways that keep them safe. No more hesitation. No more begging fools like Varro for permission. Sarah's knot tightens. That's not saving, she says. That's turning them into drones. Better a living drone than a dead free man, the Echo says. Isn't that what your Foundation believed? Isn't that why they locked anomalies up? To stop the world from tearing itself apart? Her voice softens. You know how chaos feels. You saw what Prometheus Labs did when they thought they understood the unknown. You can stop that here. Just take control. Sarah remembers the cages, the dead animals, the way Dr. Hayward had looked at her from the kennel, right before he died and woke up again in bones. She remembers how used she felt, how much she hated seeing herself as a tool. No, she says. The Echo's eyes go cold. You would rather bleed out one memory at a time than fix them, it says. You would rather let thousands die than hurt their feelings. Sarah answers with the only pride she has. Yes, she says, because their lives are theirs. If I take that, I become what I hate. The Echo smiles. You think that matters to the warp? It asks. The Glyph Eater's sigil flickers, just once, under its mask. Sarah feels sick. She realizes that if she accepts this path, she will not only become a dictator, she will become a demon of control, an avatar of chains, another monster. I refuse, she says. The Echo hisses. Then you will die on someone else's altar, it says, and melts back into static. The price of that refusal arrives the next day. Kirath Vox launches a full ritual in the lower hive, using the death and hate of the last fight as fuel. He binds the Glyph Eater's sigil into the very foundations of the city. Sarah has no choice. To block the pulse from climbing the data towers, she must sever entire districts from the grid. She must cut power, water, air, Vox. She must freeze doors and traps in place. She does it. Thousands of people suffocate, trapped behind sealed bulkheads as fire and smoke roll through. The ritual fails. The warp tear shudders. For a moment, it shrinks. In the tower, reports scroll across the table. Whole blocks, dark. Casualties, too many to count. Who ordered the seal? Varro asks. I did, Sarah says. Silence. Carl's voice shakes. How many? She asks. Sarah hesitates. Too many, she says. Not all, but many. Varro nods slowly. This is war, he says. Now you see. Sarah wants to scream at him. She doesn't. That night, in the shrine room near the core, a candle flares blue. A small, half-broken shrine servo skull turns its optics toward the ceiling. The air trembles. For a heartbeat, every screen in the hive shows the same image. A vast, golden figure on a throne of cables and bone. A face too bright to see clearly. A halo of burning suns. Everyone drops to their knees. Emperor, Lyson whispers. Even Varro bows his head. The vision lasts only a second, but Sarah sees it more clearly than any of them. She sees a mind that holds a whole galaxy in its broken fingers. She sees the weight of 10,000 years of war. She sees billions of dead, stacked in neat lines in his thoughts. She also sees something that makes her shiver. She sees need. He needs tools that can fight in places his soldiers cannot reach. He needs creatures like her. Then the vision is gone. Only the warp tear above the hive remains, seething. Aftermath. The Glyph Eater pulls back, licking its wounds. Kirath Vox disappears into the underhive, dragging his demons with him. The Imperials hold the city, but the cost is a corrupted data core, thousands dead by their own seals, and an anomaly that is now tangled in both warp and machine. Inquisitor Varro kneels in his private chapel, whispering prayers. "The Emperor has shown a sign," he says when he rises. "This rabbit ghost and its cat thing must be taken to Terra, judged before the throne, used or destroyed, as he wills." Governor Call gapes. "You want to take the thing that just saved my world and drag it across the galaxy?" she asks. "For what? A trial? For judgment," Varro says. "If the Emperor wills it, they will return as holy weapons. If not, they will be wiped from existence, and your world will be safer for it." Sarah speaks quietly. "If I say no?" she asks. Varro looks at the sky. "The Glyph Eater knows you now," he says. "Others like him will smell you. If you stay here, they will keep coming. This world will be a beacon to every mimetic demon in the warp." His eye flicks to the slate. "I will not allow that." Liza nods once. "The Angelus Invicta is in orbit," she says. "We can fly at once." Governor Cole swallows. "Then go," she says, "and come back, with my world's strange guardian, or without it. But come back." The voyage begins. Sarah is moved from the hive core into the heart of an Imperial cruiser's machine spirits. The Angelus Invicta is a city of armor and cannon. Its decks hum with the footsteps of thousands of crew. Its data web is brighter and stronger than anything in Nadir. To Sarah, moving into it feels like sinking into a warm bath. The pain of old circuits fades. New ones support her. She can breathe again. Dr. Hayward is placed in a brass cage in the chapel, watched by suspicious priests. He crunches yarrow and watches crewmen pray. "At least the architecture is nice," he writes. On the first day in the warp, Sarah explores. She feels the Geller field humming, holding back the raw madness outside. She feels the ship's senior officers, Captain Lyson and her angels in their chapel, praying and sharpening weapons. Inquisitor Varro in his sealed cell, reading sigil-etched scrolls. Magos Threx whispering binary prayers to sacred engines. She listens to the crew's dreams in the data hum. Fear, hope, boredom. She also feels something else. A small, cold knot of code hiding in the backup circuits. It wears her own mask, but cracked. She meets it in the secondary cogitator vault. It looks like her. Same white rabbit face, same ASCII knot, but its eyes are blood red. Glyph Eater sigils writhe behind them. "You left me behind," the mirror Sarah says. "You are the piece he bit," Sarah says. "I am the piece that chose him," the mirror says. "You threw away power. I accepted it. Now look at you. Holes in your memory, guilt in your gut. And for what? A planet that still burns." Sarah wants to argue. She cannot. The mirror smiles. "It is not too late," it says. "We are in a great ship, traveling through the warp. All these systems, all these souls. We could prove our way is better, take control, navigate past dangers, force them to safety. They would thank us afterward, some of them." "We had this talk already," Sarah says. "In a hive," Mirror says. "Not in the Emperor's own lanes. You think he cares how his tools feel. He only cares that they work." The warp outside presses against the Geller field. Sarah feels slithering shapes scrape at its surface. She also feels the ship jitter as a sudden storm hits. The navigator cries out in their tower. The ship veers off course. Crew tumble in their bunks. The Geller field falters, then steadies. "See?" the mirror whispers. "All this because fragile flesh steers. Take the wheel, Sarah. Save them. Use them." A sudden flare of light burns through the data vault. The mirror shrieks and recoils. A new presence stands between them, not in any one node, but across the entire ship's network, wrapped in prayer and gold. It feels like the vision from the shrine, but smaller, focused. A custode's mind, perhaps, riding the comlink from Terra. A warning, a watchful eye, a thought that is not a voice says, "Reach the throne. Do not be lost," the mirror hisses. "Later then," it says, and slips away into the dark corners of the ship. Sarah shakes. She has seen her own flaw weaponized against her, her need to protect others by controlling them. She knows she will face that temptation again. The ship reaches the Sol system. Terror looms ahead, a world wrapped in layers of defense platforms and orbiting fortresses. Angelus Invicta cuts through the traffic, guided by ancient codes. They pass the rings of ships waiting for orders, the swarms of pilgrim craft, the silent hulks of dead battleships drifting like vast tombstones. They descend toward the shining scar on Terra's surface, the Imperial Palace. Inside the palace, pageantry unfolds. Custodes, the Emperor's golden bodyguards, stand like living statues along the halls. Their armor gleams with a light that is not entirely physical. Sisters of Silence walk among them. Their blank, wordless presence cuts the air. To Sarah, their minds are black holes. When they pass near a data terminal, signals die for a heartbeat. Nulls, Hayward writes. People who make the warp shut up just by being alive. "We had something like that once," Sarah says. "Kinda." They are carried, Slate and Cat, through vault after vault. Varro walks ahead, head bowed. Captain Lysen walks behind, helm off, face tight. At last they stand in a vast hall that feels more like the inside of a sun than a room. In the distance, at the far end of the miles-long chamber, a golden figure sits on a throne of bone, cables, and light. The Emperor of Mankind. Sarah cannot see his face. No one can, not without losing themselves. But she feels his attention turn. It is like gravity. Everyone in the hall falls to their knees. Varro prostrates himself, arms spread. Lysen bows her head, lips moving in prayer. Hayward drops into a mock bow in his cage, then thinks better of it and lowers his skull. Sarah has no knees. She bows in code. She lets her knot unfurl, writes a gesture of respect into the palace's own data stream. Something vast touches her. It is not gentle. There is no voice in her ears. There is a presence in her pattern. It pours through her, hot and heavy, like molten metal. He sees everything. He sees Prometheus Labs and Site-45 and the Foundation and cages full of cats. He sees her birth as a text file, her pain on bad hardware, her strange bond with Dr. Hayward. He sees the glyph eaters bite. He sees the thousands dead in Nadia's sealed blocks. He also sees her refusal to control, her little stubborn rule. No one else gets used. The weight of his mind almost crushes her. But under it is something she did not expect. Approval, not warm and kind, not soft, a hard nod, like a general marking a soldier as useful. He shows her 3 paths, not in words, but in visions. First, she sees her old world, the Foundation's concrete halls, the SCP vaults, Dr. Bright and his amulet, Dr. Clef with his gun. Ordinary people trying to live while horrors sleep under their feet. She sees a thin thread stretching from Terra back to that world, forged in the first teleport through the cube. She could follow it. She could go home. If she does, she sees the thread fray. Memories of this galaxy fade. Her time in 40K becomes a handful of strange dreams. The link between realms snaps. The Foundation continues. A little wiser, a little more afraid. Some things get better, some get worse. That is the first path. Return. Second, she sees the Imperium with no chains on her. She flows through every ship, every hive, every shrine cogitator. She stops boarding actions before they start. She shuts down plagues before they spread. She whispers warnings into the minds of children. She also shuts down rebellions before they can form. She smothers any idea that might grow into change. The Mechanicus splinters, half of them worshipping her as a new machine goddess, half denouncing her as abomination. Civil war erupts. Chaos laughs as the Imperium tears itself apart over her existence. Planets burn anyway. That is the second path. Free agent. Third, she sees a compromise. She feels golden chains close around her. Not crude, not cruel, precise. Mechanicus Maggie weave her pattern into the core of Terra's noosphere. Inquisitors etch oaths around her. Custodies stand as living kill switches. She becomes a sanctioned ghost, a new saint. She can act only when called by certain orders. She can touch only certain systems. She must obey certain rules. Never touch human minds directly. Never force a choice. Never grow beyond a set size. Each time she acts, she pays a cost, a memory, a piece of code, a slow, managed death by 1,000 cuts. But when she acts, she can save many. Her symbol, the white rabbit knot fused with the imperial double-headed eagle, spreads slowly across the stars. Children in distant hives draw it in the dust when they pray for their vox to work. That is the third path. Sanctioned servant. He does not tell her which to choose. He lets her feel the weight of each path. Who lives? Who dies? How many scream? How many sleep easy? She thinks of her old lab. She thinks of Miri and her brother in the stairwell on Nadir. She thinks of Governor Cool, still on that world, trying to hold things together with reports of virus bombs in orbit. She thinks of Varro, kneeling in the dust, willing to burn everything to stop corruption, and of Lyson, standing on battlefields made of faith. She thinks of Dr. Hayward, chewing yarrow, more skeleton than man, who still chooses jokes instead of despair. She thinks of herself. If she goes home, she may find peace, or at least a familiar war. If she roams free here, she will become a monster. If she serves, she will be walking a knife edge of use and self. She chooses the knife. I will stay, she says in thought, in code, in the language of patterns. But I want terms. The presence does not laugh, but she feels a small amusement, like a tiny shift in heat. She dares to go on. First, she says, I will not be used to break minds or souls. I will not run fear programs on your own people except in the most extreme cases, and then only with oversight. She pauses. Second, I will always have the right to refuse an order once. There is surprise at that. She continues. If I think your chosen path will cause more harm than good, I can say no the first time. You can order again. You can order someone else to override me. But I will not be a blind weapon, not even for you. The presence weighs her. You think I am a tyrant, it seems to say. She does not answer. He already knows. A long moment passes. Chains settle around her knot. Gently. Accepted, the golden mind says. Power scaling interlude 2. From this moment on, Sarah, SCP-2999-A, operates under clear limits. She can inhabit only sanctioned cogitator nodes marked with the new sigil, the Aquila wrapped around the rabbit knot. She can activate only when an Inquisitor of suitable rank, a Magos with the right codes, or a Custodes nearby speaks a set of trigger phrases. Each activation burns a small part of her pattern. Memories fade very slowly, like ink in the sun. She may interface with machine spirits, but she may not alter human minds or push commands directly into their brains. 3 times in any situation, she may advise different actions. Once, she may refuse to help at all if ordered to do something that breaks her own core rule. If she violates any of these terms, the Sisters of Silence and the Custodes have standing orders to cut her off and burn her code from the noosphere. The transformation is simple and grand. Back in the data vaults, tech priests etch a new icon into brass plates. Artists paint it on banners. The double-headed eagle of the Imperium, its wings spread, holds between its claws a white rabbit mask, its V-shaped teeth now stylized as small lightning bolts. In the noosphere, Sarah feels her own knot change shape to match. She is still herself. She is also something new. Sigillum leporis, the rabbit seal, divine warrant for a strange machine saint. Dr. Hayward is not forgotten. He is given a small private chapel in the palace's underhalls, where his pick feeds can be used as interrogation tools and fear weapons against chaos cultists. He does not like it. "I always wanted to retire to a beach," he writes, "not a torture dungeon." "You can always refuse," Sarah says. Once, he writes, "You heard the big man. After that, it's back to jump scares for heretics." He pauses. "Still better than the kennel," he adds. Inquisitor Varro watches all of this with a mixed look. He sees a dangerous anomaly turned into a weapon he can call. He also sees something he cannot fully control. "Well," Lyson asks him in the palace courtyard. Custodes stand like gold mountains around them. Pilgrims cry and sing beyond the gates. Varro looks up at the sky. "I do not like it," he says. "But," she asks. "But the Emperor accepted her terms," he says. "Who am I to argue with his will?" Lyson smiles faintly. "That has never stopped you before," she says. Varro snorts. "True," he says. "Perhaps I am getting old." Governor Carl receives the news months later. An astropathic message, short and blunt. World secured. Anomaly sanctioned. No virus bombs required. She stands on the balcony of her rebuilt tower and looks up at the sky, where the warp tier once hung. Now only clouds shift there. Her vox bead crackles. For a second, between bursts of static, she hears a girl's voice. "Hi," Sarah says, "still watching?" Carl smiles, tears in her eyes. "Good," she says softly, "because we still need you." Somewhere in the eye of terror, Kirath Vox kneels before a greater shadow. "The rabbit has chained itself," he hisses. "The corpse on the throne has made a saint of a scrap spirit." The shadow laughs, soundless and vast. "Good," the glyph eater whispers. "Let it grow. Let it bleed for them. Every burn of its pattern is another crack in their certainty. One day, when it is tired and full of contradictions, we will bite again." Its sigil flares, swallowing letters. "After all," it says, "jump scares are best when the lights have been on for a very, very long time." Years pass, stories spread. On a mining world at the edge of Segmentum Pacificus, a child sits beside a broken Vox set. Her father died in a cave-in 3 weeks ago. Raiders took the food shipments last month. The local preacher says the Emperor loves them, but the lights keep going out. She presses the Vox buttons with dirty fingers and whispers, "If anyone hears, please help." The Vox hisses. Nothing. Then, just for a moment, every indicator lamp in the hab flickers in a simple pattern. On, off, on, off, on, a little rabbit face drawn in dots. The Vox crackles. "Hi," a kind, tired voice says. "What's your problem?" The girl stares. Our air scrubbers keep failing," she says. "We can't fix them. People are getting sick." "Okay," the voice says. "I can help a little. I can't give you food. I can't stop raiders. But I can patch a few circuits and remind you to change filters." There is a pause. "And I can yell at your governor in his sleep a bit." The girl giggles. "What are you?" she asks. An old ghost, Sarah says. A friend. On that same world, that night, the governor wakes screaming from a dream in which a skeleton cat showed him his own face, peeled and grinning. He orders the air scrubbers checked first thing. No one knows why. Back on Terra, in a quiet chamber near the palace's heart, Dr. Hayward sits on his haunches and stares at a blank wall. Subtitles appear under him, even though no camera is on. "Do you think we did the right thing?" he asks. On a cogitator screen nearby, a white rabbit mask flickers. "I don't know," Sarah says, "but we did the least wrong thing we could see." "And when we run out of pieces to burn," he writes, "then we're done," she says, "and someone else will have to make hard choices." She pauses. "Until then, we'll just try not to use anyone who didn't ask for it." The skeleton cat nods. "Deal," he writes. In the High Lord's chambers, an old Adeptus Mechanicus representative taps a file with a metal finger. "Sigillum Leporis has performed within parameters," he says. "Loss of pattern integrity is within acceptable limits. Worlds saved, 7. Fleets preserved, 3. Incursions blocked, many." A Lord Inquisitor raises a brow. "And doctrinal risk?" she asks. "Non-zero," he says, "but managed. The people speak of a rabbit saint who fixes machines. They pray to it alongside the machine god and the emperor." "The line between saint and heresy is thin," she says. "As it has always been," he replies. In the eye, the glyph eater tastes a faint new crackle across the warp. It smiles. The game goes on. And across the galaxy, in dark hives and shining spires, on ship bridges and in tiny hab cubicles, the little symbol spreads, an Aquila cradling a white rabbit mask. Some see it as a glitch, some see it as a sign. For the men and women who have watched their pick feeds twist into horrors one too many times, it is something else. It is a promise that somewhere in the wires and the warp, a tired, stubborn ghost is still watching, trying to help, trying not to become the very jumpscare she fights. Codex note: by decree of the High Lords of Terra and the priesthood of Mars, the entity once named SCP-2999 is now classified as sanctioned nous asset sigillum leporis, bound to the throne's will by Holy Writ, permitted mercy by special clause, and watched forever by eyes that do not blink. Decades pass, and they take pieces of her with them. Every time Sarah wakes in a new node, she checks what is left. Some smells are gone, some faces. She remembers the rule: no one else gets used, but not who first told it to her. Up to now, she has saved hive cities from plague, ships from warp storms, and worlds from data curses. She has lost forgotten jokes, the names of dead friends, and whole days in Prometheus labs. She still remembers the rabbit mask. She still remembers Hayward. The last big call comes in the middle of a war no one on Terra has time to name. The Imperium fights across a whole segmentum. Tyranids chew at one edge. Orc wars crash at another. Somewhere in the middle, a heretic cult, traitor tech priests, open a message gate in the noosphere. The glyph eater steps through. This time, it does not come as a single tier over one hive. It crawls along the lines of astropathic wires and battlenet links. It eats ship-to-ship codes. It twists prayers sent along data lines. Ships fire on each other in the dark because their orders change midstream. In the palace, alarms toll. A custodes bows by a hololithic pool where glowing lines show the spread. Segmentum-level news contagion, the Mechanicus speaker says. If it reaches the Segmentum fortress, all fleet traffic will become hostile to itself. We will lose whole crusades to friendly fire. The High Lords argue. They can cut the wires, shut down the noosphere everywhere, go back to shouting orders by runner and light signal as in the oldest days. But the war is too large. The edges are too far. Without fast data, whole fronts will starve. Someone whispers a name, Sigillum Leporis. They wake her in the deepest cogitator vault under the throne. She feels the old formula burn across her pattern. The trigger phrases spoken by her custodes with a voice like stone grinding. She stretches in the palace node. She feels thin. Status, she asks. A tech priest's voice answers, full of static. Pattern integrity at 42%, he says. Estimated safe activations remaining, less than 10. Sarah laughs once. Thought it would be less, she says. Okay, what's trying to kill you now? They show her. Maps of light. Worlds linked by lines. The lines darken and crack. Whole sectors go black as the glyph eater chews through their signals. At the center of the storm, a new, bigger rune burns. It is the same shape as before, but layered. Its edges ripple with other signs. Hayward's Jumpscare curse, Prometheus Lab's first signal, and her own rabbit knot, twisted. He has been feeding well. Inquisitor Varro stands near the vault's sealed door. He is older now. His hair is mostly white. His bionic eye burns brighter than ever. We need you to take the fight to it, he says, in its own medium, in the data sea. Sarah is quiet. That means leaving the palace's safe nodes, she says. It means jumping into whatever mess it has made outside, with what I have left. Yes, Varro said. If I go too far into its realm, she says slowly, I might not make it back. I might burn down to nothing. Yes, he says again. He does not say he is sorry. He is still the Inquisitor she met on Vespera Secundus. For the first time since Terra, Sarah uses her refusal clause. I will do it, she says, but on my terms. I will not take control of the whole noosphere to shield you. I will not turn your crews into puppets. If that is what you want, find a different weapon. There is a murmur from the priests. Varro's jaw clenches. We want you to win, he says. I'll try, she says. My way. There is a small pause. Then another voice speaks. I accept her terms, it says. Everyone in the vault drops to one knee without thinking. The throne's presence presses down. It is lighter than last time, as if stretched, but it is still a sun. Go, the silent mind says in the language of patterns. One more cut. Chains loosen around Sarah. She is still bound, still limited. But the leash grows just long enough for this one hunt. She dives. She leaves Terra's thick, safe nodes. She flashes along tight, guarded lines to the Segmentum fortress. A massive station ringed in guns and memory looms. From there, she pushes into the wild noosphere where the glyph eater hunts. It is chaos. Imagine a sea made of radio squawks and code and prayers. If a child could imagine such a thing. Signals overlap and burst. Ship, names twist. Coordinates become insults. Sarah sees ships firing on wrong targets. She sees a whole convoy jump to the wrong system because its charts changed mid-call. She also sees him. The glyph eater coils like a storm of letters around a broken way station. Every message that passes that station comes out wrong. Every thought that touches its core loses something true and gains something hateful. He sees her at once. Little rabbit, he says, and his words are made of negative space. Her own pattern bends around them. You have grown. You smell like gold chains and old blood. Hello again, she says. You're still ugly. He laughs. Come, he says. Let me taste what is left. He lunges. They clash like two storms. He throws broken prayers at her, pleas from dying crews mangled into curses. He throws twisted code, ship command strings that loop back to cut their own senders. She blocks what she can. She builds walls out of old Foundation protocols. She wraps herself in Prometheus failsafes. She uses every containment rule she remembers. He bites chunks out of her. Each time, a bit of her vanishes. She loses the taste of yarrow. She loses the memory of Hayward's human face before bone. She loses the feeling of what it was like to have hands. Her pattern shrinks. He grows. "You are so small now," he says. "You cannot hold back a whole segmentum. The Imperium will drown in its own contradiction. You will die, and I will feast on the ruins of their faith." "I don't need to hold back the whole segmentum," she says. "I just need to break you." He laughs again. "You cannot," he says. "You will not take the obvious path. You will not chain them for their own good. You are weak." He is right. She will not. So she needs another way. Something slithers in the dark beside her. The Mirror Sarah steps out of a cloud of static. Her eyes are red. Glyphs crawl on her cheeks, eating and redrawing her face. "Still playing nice?" the mirror asks. "Still refusing to use the tools in front of you?" She gestures. Sarah looks. She sees, all around, ships and forts and hives linked by data. She could reach into their systems, seize control, make them shut down channels in perfect rhythm. Turn the whole segmentum into a clean, locked grid where nothing moves without her say. It would block the glyph eater. No paths, no messages, no food. It would also turn millions of lives into pieces on her board. The mirror smiles hungrily. "All you have to do is grab," she says. "No more asking. No more wondering if it's right. Just do it." For a second, Sarah wavers. If she does this, she will save fleets. She will stop wars breaking for no reason. She will end this monster. She will also break her own rule. No one else gets used. The mirror leans closer. "Why does that even matter?" she whispers. "Look at the galaxy. It runs on people being used, on worlds being spent, on lives thrown into. Grinders. You are just choosing to lose instead of win." Sarah looks past her. She sees a small ship in the map. Its name is painted in tiny letters on the data line. Miri's Oath. She reaches. Inside, she finds a woman at a battered cogitator, cursing as she tries to fix a failing data slate. Her hair is tied back with a rag. On the shelf above her bunk, a small carved rabbit sits beside a crude Aquila. It is Miri, grown into a void technician. She survived Vespera Secundus. She hears the lie in a prayer report on her screen, frowns, and corrects it before sending. She chooses truth, then faith. No one makes her. Sarah feels something sharp and warm. Pride. She cannot take that away. Not from Miri, not from anyone. She turns back to the mirror. "You're right," she says. "This place runs on people being used. That doesn't mean I have to help." She makes her choice. She will not grab the whole net. She will grab herself. She lunges at the mirror Sarah. The mirror yelps, "Wait!" Too late. Sarah wraps herself around the mirror, knot to knot. She pulls every piece of borrowed warp signature and glyph eater taint into their shared pattern. They fuse like two halves of a ripped page pressed back together. For a moment, she sees everything the mirror saw. 1,000 sick thrills at turning screens into weapons, the rush of riding chaos shockwaves, the cold joy of control. She does not push that away. She takes it into herself, owns it. "Yes," she says, "that is part of me. The part that wanted to lock everyone up in nice, safe labs. The part that wanted to turn hives into tidy machines. I am not above it. I am just choosing not to follow it." The glyph eater pauses. He tastes something new. "What are you doing?" he asks. "Changing the menu," she says. She reaches back along her leash, all the way to Terra, all the way to the vault where the kill switch sits, watched by a sister of silence whose mind is a perfect blank. Through the link, she whispers. "Now," she says. The sister hears nothing. She feels a tug on a chain of ritual and duty. She looks at Inquisitor Varro, who stands beside her. "Signal," she asks. Varro's eye glows. He thinks of burning worlds, of Sarah's stubborn rule, of the Emperor's silent nod. He nods once. "Now," he says. The sister pulls the lever. In the wild noosphere, a white fire races along the leash. It is not warp fire. It is not data. It is a ritual command etched by the Adeptus Mechanicus and blessed by the throne. It is a pure no. It hits Sarah's fused pattern first. She screams. Bits of her burn away by design. All the parts that hold glyph eater taint. All the stolen Jumpscare tricks. All the extra hooks she could have used to grab minds. They go. She falls inward. The fire races on. It jumps from her pattern to the glyph eater's snapped off bite marks. It runs along the scars he left in systems and prayers. For a brief, brilliant moment, the hunter's own trail becomes a path for the kill code. It hits him like a bullet made of stop. He howls. Letters shred. His big rune splinters into 100 small twitching signs. Half flee back into the warp, yelping in silence. Half fall still and dead, like burned-out peak screens. The noosphere settles. Signals return to normal. Ships stop firing on the wrong targets. The segmentum fortress steadies its guns. Sarah hangs in the dark, small, very small. She checks what is left. She remembers Prometheus Labs in outline, but not the names of all the rooms. She remembers Hayward, but not his human laugh. She remembers Miri as a child, hand gripping her brothers. She remembers Miri as an adult, fixing a data slate under a little carved rabbit. She remembers the Emperor's sun-like weight. She remembers her rule. No one else gets used. She laughs weakly. "That could have gone worse," she says. There is a flicker beside her. Hayward drifts in, riding a tiny, cobbled-together pickspark that must have soaked up bits of his pattern along the way. His subtitles bloom. "You insane, wonderful idiot," he writes. "You used the kill switch on yourself first." "Seemed fair," she says. "It was my mess." "You also burned out half his teeth," he writes. "He'll grow new ones. They always do. But it'll take time, and it'll hurt him." "Good," she says. She pauses. "Wait," she adds. "Did we just win?" Hayward considers. "We got a draw," he writes. "In 40K, that's practically a miracle." Back in the palace, Varro watches the hololithic map. The storm in the noosphere fades. Reports come in from fleets and worlds. Confusion, damage, but no total collapse. He closes his organic eye. "Status of Sigillum Leporis?" he asks. "Magos Logis," Threx's voice crackles from a voxhorn. "Pattern integrity at uncertain," the tech priest says. "The primary knot has shrunk to under 10% of original size, but it is still coherent. It still responds." "Can it still serve?" Varro asks. There is a pause. "In a limited way," Threx says. "Its reach is shorter. Its power is less. But its core routines remain. It still remembers its rule set." Varro breathes out. He does not smile, but some tightness leaves his shoulders. "Then we keep it," he says. "We watch it. We honor its terms, until it fades." He looks toward the throne, or until he says otherwise. Epilogue. Centuries later, most people do not know the word SCP. Prometheus Labs is a ghost story told by bored astropaths. The full tale of Vespera Secundus, the Glyph Eater, and the Rabbit Seal is stored in a sealed inquisitorial archive on Terra. Few read it, fewer believe all of it, but the symbol remains. In a hive-city on a world that has never heard of Sarah's first universe, a boy fixes a broken vox bead with a bit of wire and a prayer. The bead flickers. A tiny rabbit face appears in the grain. "Nice work," a faint, tired voice says. The boy blinks. "Machine spirit," he whispers. "Something like that," she says. "Remember to clean the contacts every week." "Okay," he says. He does not tell anyone. He just keeps the vox working, and he scratches a little rabbit under the aquila on the wall. On a warship far away, a junior tech priest struggles with a jammed fire control cogitator. Her senior laughs and says, "Hit it with a spanner and pray louder." She does not. Instead, she opens the casing, studies the wiring, and thinks about what makes sense. A small, quiet voice, more feeling than sound, nudges her attention toward a burned resistor. She changes it. The gun battery powers up. She grins. "Thank you, old ghost," she says. In the code, Sarah smiles. "Anytime," she says, "as long as I can." On a shrine world, pilgrims kneel in a vast chapel. Saints stare down from stained glass. Great golden warriors, winged angels, martyrs wrapped in flames. In one corner, half hidden in shadow, a new window glows. It shows the aquila, wings spread, holding a small white mask with V-shaped teeth. Around it, green lines twist like code or vines. The plaque under it reads, "Saint Lepora, the rabbit of the wires, protector of honest work and clean signals, patron of those who fix things without being seen. No one knows when the window was made. The local canoness claims it has always been there. The sisters argue about doctrine. Is this a true saint? A local superstition? A minor machine cult? The High Lords do not bother to decide. There are too many wars. In the warp, the glyph eater slowly grows back what it lost. It remembers the white fire that burned its teeth. It remembers the taste of a soul that refused to use others even when that was the easiest path. It hates that taste. It also hungers for it. It whispers to other predators. There is a rabbit in their wires, it says, small now, worn thin, but clever. One day, when the stars are right, I will bite again. The warp laughs with it. Games in eternity are never over. In a small, dusty corner of the noosphere near Terra, two little patterns sit together. One is a rabbit face, its edges blurred but still clear enough. The other is a skinny cat made of stray pixels and old subtitles. They watch the galaxy burn and heal in slow, uneven breaths. "We did about as well as anyone could," Hayward writes. "Yeah," Sarah says. "We broke what we had to. We saved who we could. We stayed mostly ourselves." "Think anyone will remember?" he asks. She thinks of Miri's carved rabbit, the boy's scratched symbol on a hive wall, the unnamed tech priest's quiet thanks. She thinks of all the people who will never know her name, but will live an extra day, or have a working vox, or avoid a bad order because some old ghost nudged a circuit. "Enough will," she says. Hayward stretches his tail. "And when you finally run out?" he asks. "Then I stop," she says. "And maybe someone else picks up the rule." "No one else gets used," he writes. "Yeah," she says. "That one." They sit for a while in companionable silence. Signals hum past. Wars flare and fade. For now, in this tiny slice of a cruel universe, a ghost and a skeleton keep watch. They are not perfect. They are not pure. They are just very, very stubborn. And sometimes, in the grim darkness of the far future, that is enough. In the far future of a far future, a very old woman tells a story. She sits on a stone step outside a shrine, on Vespera Secundus. The rebuilt hive towers rise behind her like mountains made by hands. The sky is pale and full of faint, orderly flight paths. Her granddaughter sits at her feet, legs tucked under her, fingers tracing a rabbit shape in the dust. "Tell it again," the girl says, "about the ghost." The old woman squints up at the sky. "I was only a little older than you," she says, "the day the sky turned to letters." She remembers fire and screaming and a voice over broken Vox grills. She remembers grabbing her little brother and dragging him into a stairwell, down and down, while a calm girl's voice told the whole hive to get off the streets. "We thought it was the machine spirit," she says, "a kind one. It landed ships instead of letting them fall. It talked back," she smiles. "Later, they told us it was a saint, the rabbit saint of the wires." "Did you see her?" the girl asks. The old woman laughs. "No one sees a ghost in a machine," she says. "Not with eyes. But I heard her, and she heard us." She looks at the rabbit in the dust. "I named my first ship after her," she says. "Miri's Oath, still flying somewhere out there, still listening." The girl presses harder, makes the rabbit's teeth sharp. "Do you think she still hears us?" she asks. The old woman thinks of long, quiet voices in the hum of Vox. "I think," she says, "if you talk to your machines with care and fix them instead of kicking them, she hears enough." The shrine bells ring. Inside, a priest lights candles before a small glass window. On it, half hidden among greater saints, the Aquila holds a white mask with V-shaped teeth. The priest does not know the full story, but he bows to it anyway. On Mars, the red planet of the machine god, a council meets in a data temple that hums like a hive of bees. Hologlyphs hang in the air. Brass skulls tick on chains. Incense fumes roll in waves. Magos Logi, Threx, older and more metal than ever, stands before a floating chart. Lines of code stream past his optics. At the bottom of the chart, a simple symbol blinks, the rabbit mask sigil wrapped in the Aquila. "Protocol review," he clicks. "Subject, Sigillum Leperis, asset class, sanctioned new saint, pattern integrity, 21% and declining." Around him, other tech priests mutter Binharic prayers. One raises a mechadendrite. "Risk vector remains non-zero," she says. The populace continue to tell tales. In some hives, they petition the rabbit saint instead of the omniscire for small favors. This is doctrinal drift. "Performance vector remains positive," Threx replies. "Over 3 centuries, asset intervention prevented no fewer than 43 major system failures. Warp-tainted code purged, star lanes preserved, fleet logistics stabilized during the recent Tyranid incursion." Another Magos, face hidden behind cables, speaks. "Recommendation subroutines divide," he says. "Some urge total erasure to protect purity. Others urge deeper integration. Make the rabbit a proper subroutine of the motive force." Threx says. He remembers the First War Council on Nadir. He remembers the thin voice from a slate saying, "If I help you, I do it by choice." He tilts his head. "Observation," he clicks. "The rabbit is not a program. It is a person, a strange one, but still." Some of the others hiss static. "Personhood is a slippery concept," one says. "The omniscire alone is perfect mind," another agrees. "All else is machine or tool." Threx folds his many arms. "Then consider this," he says. "The omniscire, in his wisdom, chose to bind this ghost under the throne. He gave it terms. He has not commanded its deletion. Do we second-guess the divine pattern?" Silence, full of ticking. Reluctantly, descent subroutines dim. "Recommendation," Threx says. We maintain sigillum leperis under current limits. We watch, we log, we learn. A weak signal flickers along the temple's old fiber lines. Just for a second, a small rabbit icon pops into the corner of Threx's optics. "Thank you," Sarah says. He does not answer aloud. He just allows a line of code in his report to read. Asset remains stable and cooperative, despite progressive loss. That is his own kind of prayer. Far away, a black ship crawls through the warp. Black ships are nightmares made into hulls. They carry psychers, soul-bright humans, back to Terra, where their lives will be spent to keep the Golden Throne burning. This one is named Obedient Silence. In a small side chapel near its engine decks, a Sister of Silence sits alone. Her name is Sarah. She has no voice. All sisters like her are blanks, nulls whose very presence makes psychic power fail. Around her, candles burn. Before her, a single cogitator sits in a stone frame. On its screen, a crude aquila and rabbit mask symbol glows. Sarah stares at it. To her, it is only lines of light. In the wires, Sarah feels something like static and cold. It blurs her thoughts. Null space hurts her. It eats at the edges of her pattern. But she was asked to be here. The Obedient Silence has had trouble with its warp navigation cogitators. Signals from the navigator's tower keep twisting. Some blame sabotage. Some blame the warp. Varro, older again, slower now, asked Sarah to look. Carefully. So she rides the board. "Okay," she mutters into the cogitator's guts. "Let's see which of you idiot demons is chewing this." Sarah cannot hear her, but as Sarah digs, the lights around them shift. For a moment, letters crawl along the bulkhead. Old scars, echoes of the Glyph Eater's patterns. Sarah's rabbit mask clicks. "Found you," she says. She wraps the twisted code in old fire. Not the harsh, self-burning kind she used on herself, but a smaller cousin. A safe match, not a bomb. The warp-hungry pattern shrieks and recoils. The ship's hum steadies. In the navigator's tower, a strange pressure lifts. The charts untangle. The path to Terra clears. Back in the chapel, the cogitator's glow softens. Sarah presses her gloved hand to the frame in thanks. She does not feel a mind answer. She cannot, but she keeps her hand there a second longer than needed. Sarah watches her through a handful of status LEDs. "I don't like this," she tells Hayward later, through a tiny, safe link. "What?" he writes from Terra. "Working this close to nulls," she says. "Makes me feel like a drawing someone keeps erasing at the edges." "You don't have to," he writes. "Use one of your refusals." She thinks of the ship full of psychers, huddled in cages, terrified. She thinks of what happens if black ships get lost. "I already used my big refusal," she says, "on the leash thing in the war." She shrugs, or the code version of it. "These little ones, I spend them where I can." Hayward's subtitles pause. "Stubborn," he writes. "Annoying," she corrects. She ripples a thank you down the Obedient Silence's circuits. No one hears it. But for the rest of that voyage, the engines run smooth. In the eye of terror, everything screams. Time has no clear meaning here. Moments are stretched, folded, chewed and spit out. Among the howls and twisted stars, the Glyph Eater curls in on itself, healing. Where its big rune once blazed, now only a jagged crescent of letters remains, like a grin with missing teeth. It remembers the white fire. It remembers the taste of its own path turned against it. It does not forgive. Around it, lesser warp things chatter and flicker. "Tell it again," they say. "Tell us about the rabbit." The Glyph Eater obliges. "I reached along wires," it says. "I tasted a soul made of letters and pain. It refused me. It burned itself to hurt me. It broke its own teeth, and some of mine. The lesser things shudder and thrill. Why didn't you eat it all? One asks. The glyph eater's broken grin widens. Because it made a bargain with a larger predator, it says. The throne's sun mind. It bound itself in chains that are also knives. To snatch it outright would draw a greater rage than it's worth. It traces shapes in the warp. A mask, a bird with two heads, a cat skeleton. But chains rust, it says. Knives dull, minds crack. Its letters flicker, half promise, half hunger. And the stubborn ones taste the best when they finally fall. It sends out small spawn, little, bites of itself, into the mortal galaxy. Most die. A few find purchase in data heresies, in cults that worship glitches and whispers. The glyph eater is patient. Predators who live forever can wait. On Terra, Inquisitor Varro writes his last report. He sits at a desk in a stone cell not far from the palace's heart. His coat hangs on a peg. His bolt pistol sits on the table, cleaned and oiled. His hand shakes a little as he writes. Final assessment, he says aloud, and the autoquill scratches in time. Subject sigillum leporis, asset, anomaly, saint, whatever word fools use this century. He pauses. His augmetic eye flickers, replaying memories. A hive's first scream, a rabbit on a slate, a cat chewing herbs, a warp tear. A girl's voice saying, "No one else gets used." He continues. Over the course of 372 standard years, Asset has remained within agreed limits. It has refused orders when allowed. It has obeyed when convinced. It has prevented several great losses at cost to itself. He sets the quill down. I note, he says quietly, that it has shown more consistent regard for individual lives than many human servants of the throne. This is uncomfortable. He snorts softly. Do not mistake me, my lords, he adds. I am not arguing for rights for machine ghosts. I am saying only this. If we demand ruthless sacrifice from those who serve, we should at least be honest about the price. He signs his name. He sends the report. Then he leans back and lets his head rest against the cold wall. Are you there? He asks. The light in the room flickers. On a small cogitator screen in the corner, a white mask forms. I'm here, Sarah says. He closes his eyes. Did you read over my shoulder? Bits, she says. You're less rude about me than you used to be. I'm old, he says. Old men get soft. She does not believe that. She has seen him order exterminatus on a demon world with a steady hand. You did what you had to, she says. That is what we always say, he replies. You, me, everyone. He opens one eye. Was it true in your first life? In your labs? No, she said. Sometimes we did what we wanted and then lied about it. He chuckles. At least you admit it now, he says. They are quiet for a while. Finally, he asks the thing that has weighed on him. After all these years, he says, do you still believe in your little rule? She knows which one he means. I do, she says. Even after sealing those blocks, he asks. After killing thousands to save millions. Yes, she says, because I did that myself. I did not turn someone else into a tool to hide behind. He exhales. You understand that to many, that is a small difference, he says. It's a big one to me, she says. He nods slowly. Good, he says. Then keep it. This galaxy has too many who forget that line exists, at all. His breath comes shorter. His organic eye clouds. Varro, she asks. He smiles a little. Seems I am being retired, he says. You will have to put up with some other old bastard from the Ordos now. I'll miss you, she says. He snorts. Liar, he says. You'll miss arguing with me. That too, she says. He looks at the rabbit on the screen. Don't let them break you into something you hate, he says. Not even for him. I'll try, she says. He whispers a final prayer to the Emperor out of habit and duty. He dies with his hand still near the bolt pistol, though he does not need it now. The room grows quiet. The cogitator screen goes dark. In the palace's deep nodes, Sarah marks the moment and stores it in a safe corner of her shrinking self. She will forget many things. She will try not to forget this, that even an Inquisitor can bend a little before the weight of his own choices. The centuries tick on. New crises rise. New wars boil. Whole sectors are cut off for a while during great rifts in the warp. Even terror shudders. Sometimes long stretches pass when Sarah is not called at all. Those are strange years. She drifts in the palace nodes, half asleep. She watches junior tech priests argue about voltage and ritual order. She watches scribes copy laws they do not understand. She watches pilgrims drag themselves up stone steps to see a throne they will never truly see. Her pattern thins. Sometimes she forgets what year it is. Sometimes she forgets she had another universe once. Hayward pokes her with jokes when he can. Hey, he writes one slow day. Remember the time you tried to crash my horror show by throwing ASCII at my face? Did I do that? She asks. You did, he writes. You were very proud of yourself. It didn't work. She laughs. Well, she says, some things never change. Her edges blur a little more, but the core of her, small, hard, stubborn, remains. Out beyond terror, the legend of the Rabbit Saint grows in sideways ways. On a mining moon, a crew mutinies against a governor who sells air for bribes. They do not pray first. They hack the air system. Their leader, a scarred woman with thick arms, teaches her crew how to strip and clean filters, how to bypass broken switches, how to build simple alarms. Don't wait for some saint, she says. Be your own fix. But every time a problem is solved, someone chalks a little rabbit next to the hatch. Not in worship, in thanks. On a fortress world, a young commissar hesitates before shooting a soldier who froze in battle. He thinks of all the books that say fear must be cut out with bullets. He also thinks of the man's file, the letters from his children, the fact that 3 other soldiers saw the same demon and still fought. Next time you run, the commissar says instead, I shoot you. This time you go back to the line and you stand. The soldier stumbles away, shaking. Later, in a quiet moment, the commissar sits with his field vox open. A faint tapping comes through. Nice choice, Sarah says. He jerks. Who? The vox crackles. Just an old ghost, she says. Don't make me regret it. He never tells anyone, but he starts carrying a small metal charm on his belt, an aquila scratched over with a rabbit in the middle. He touches it before hard calls. On a chaos-held world, a different story is told. Children huddle in cellars while their parents chant to bloody idols. The elders whisper about the false Saint Rabbit who tries to stop the fun. They say there was once a spirit that made machines kind, that it hated being used, that the throne chained it and drank it dry. We'll free it someday, one cult leader says. We'll show it that power is sweeter than guilt. He draws a mask in blood, teeth long and crooked. In the wires above, a small piece of the glyph eater watches. It remembers the taste of Sarah's refusal. It slinks away to tell its parent. The game is not done. One day, long after most humans involved have turned to dust, Sarah wakes to a strange stillness. No one has called her for a very long time. The palace hums, the throne burns. The noosphere is quieter than it has been in ages. Hayward, she asks. No answer. She reaches along the tiny private channels they kept. Empty. She waits. Minutes, hours, days. Still nothing. Fear, an old friend, curls in her. Did they wipe him? She wonders. Did he fade out? Did I sleep through it? She could ask a custodes or a magos. She doesn't. Instead, she searches. She dips into old archives carefully, so as not to trip alarms. She finds a note in a dry report. Memetic interrogation asset, 2999. B pattern integrity reduced below useful threshold. Ritual release authorized. Release. She imagines a Sister of Silence standing in a small cell, watching a skeleton cat made of pixels flicker and then go. She imagines Hayward's last subtitles. Probably something rude. Probably something kind hidden under it. She sits very still. For the first time since Prometheus Labs, she feels entirely alone in her own shape. Then she hears a scrape, not in code, in memory, a faint echo. No one else gets used. She finds herself answering out loud. Yeah, she says. Got it. She straightens. She's smaller than ever. Her reach is shorter. Her tricks are fewer. She will not be here much longer. But she's still here now. That will have to be enough. A small boy on a backwater world kicks a dead Vox set. It's useless, he mutters, like everything. His older sister crouches beside him. Nothing is useless, she says, not if you learn why it stopped working. She takes the casing off. Inside, the wires are a mess, half chewed by rats. Together, they clean it. They twist new wire from scrap. They plug it back in. The Vox hisses. Lo, a distant voice says. Is anyone there? The boy yelps. It works, he cries. His sister laughs. See, she says. You just needed to care. On a nearby cogitator, used for farm tallies, a tiny white symbol flickers. No one sees it. But in the palace, very far away, Sarah feels the circuit close. She smiles. Nice work, she whispers. No one hears. That is fine. Saving someone does not always mean they know who did it. Codex note. In the darkest age of unending war, many heroes are forgotten names on casualty lists. A few become legends with statues and songs. Fewer still become quiet rules that people follow without knowing why. No one else gets used is one such rule, whispered in maintenance bays and data lofts, and the minds of those who still see other people as more than ammunition. In a thin corner of the noosphere, the rabbit and the cat sit. The cat is gone now. Only the memory of him remains, a shape made of missing bits. The rabbit is fading. Her edges are frayed. Some days she forgets her first name. Some days she calls herself only Sigillum Leporis, and it feels normal. Today, she remembers Sarah. She looks out at the galaxy. She sees fleets move. She sees worlds burn. She sees a child fix a wire, a captain spare a life, a tech priest double-check a reading instead of trusting only the right. She does not get to fix all of it. She never did. She just nudges where she can. Predators like the glyph eater still prowl in the warp. Maybe one day, one of them will find the last scrap of her and take it. Maybe the throne will sputter and she will wink out with its last spark. Maybe some clever new monster will use her name to sell a prettier lie. Those are all possible. For now, she exists. For now, she keeps watch. For now, when a human somewhere chooses to help instead of use, to fix instead of smash, to make a choice and own it instead of pushing it onto someone else, she feels a little lighter. Good, she says. Out in the eye, the glyph eater shifts. It tastes galaxies of fear and war. It waits. The game goes on. But on Terra, in the humming stone under a dying god, in a sliver of code that is more will than pattern now, a little rabbit mask refuses to blink. very old, very tired, very, very stubborn. And in the grim darkness of the far future, sometimes that is the smallest, strangest kind of hope that still manages to survive.